My family convinced me to drop the assault charges against my uncle. It'll destroy the family. I was 15. I dropped them. 20 years later, his daughter called me crying with the same story, and I had to live with the fact that my silence had let him do it again. Part 1. The breaking. The phone rang at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in October, cutting through the silence of my apartment like a knife through skin. I knew before I answered it that something was wrong. Good news doesn't call at that hour. Sarah? The voice on the other end was young, trembling, fractured. Sarah Mitchell? I sat up in bed, my heart already racing. Yes. Who is this? It's Emma. A pause, filled with the sound of ragged breathing. Emma Carver. Your Uncle David's daughter. The world tilted. I hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in years. David Carver. My uncle. The man who had shattered my childhood into 1,000 irreparable pieces. The man my family had protected with their silence, their excuses, their desperate need to keep the facade of normalcy intact. Emma, I whispered, and suddenly I was 15 again, sitting in the police station with my mother's hand crushing mine, her voice urgent and pleading. Asterisk, think about what this will do to the family, Sarah. Think about your grandmother. Think about Christmas dinners and weddings and asterisk. He did it to me too, Emma said, and began to cry. The words hung in the air between us, heavy as stones, inevitable as gravity. I had known they were coming from the moment I heard her voice. Deep down, in the place where guilt and shame had taken root 20 years ago, I had always known this call would come. I just didn't know it would hurt this much. Where are you? I asked, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. I'm parked outside a police station. I drove here an hour ago, but I can't go in. Everyone keeps saying I should just forget about it. That it'll destroy the family. That he's getting old, and it's in the past, and her voice cracked completely. But it's not in the past for me. It's right now. It's every day. It's every time I close my eyes. I knew that feeling. I had lived with it for 2 decades. I dropped the charges, I said quietly. When I was your age, when I was 15, they convinced me to drop them. The silence on the other end was deafening. I'm so sorry, I continued, tears now streaming down my face. Emma, I am so sorry. If I had been braver, if I had stood up to them, if I had. He told me I was the only one, Emma interrupted, her voice hollow. He said it was special, that it was our secret, that no one would understand. The same words, the exact same words he'd used with me. He's done this before, I said, and it wasn't a question. I found her name, Emma continued. In some old police records my boyfriend helped me access. The charges were dropped, but the initial report was still there. I needed to know. I needed to know if I was crazy, if I was making it up, if it was really as bad as I remembered, or if I was just... You're not crazy, I said firmly. It happened. It was real. And it was bad. And you are so incredibly brave for making this call. I could hear her crying harder now, but there was something different in the sound. Relief, maybe. Or recognition. The sound of someone who had been drowning finally finding something solid to hold on to. Will you? She hesitated. Will you tell me what happened to you? I looked at the clock. 2:51 a.m. I had to be at work in 6 hours. I had a presentation to give, meetings to attend, a life that I had carefully constructed to look normal from the outside. But none of that mattered now. Yes, I said. I'll tell you everything. Hashtag part 2. Then, the summer I turned 15 was supposed to be perfect. My parents had decided to spend July at my grandmother's lake house, the sprawling property that had been in the family for 3 generations. It was the kind of place that appeared in home magazines, all weathered wood and wide porches, surrounded by pine trees and the endless blue of Lake Michigan. Uncle David was already there when we arrived. He'd been staying with my grandmother since his divorce, helping her with repairs and keeping her company. Everyone praised him for being such a devoted son, such a family man, even after his wife had left him. No one asked why his wife had left. Sarah's getting so grown up, he said the first night, looking at me across the dinner table with an intensity that made my skin crawl. Practically a young woman now. My mother beamed. My father nodded approvingly. My grandmother patted his hand and said something about how wonderful it was to have family together. I pushed my food around my plate and said nothing. It started small, as these things always do. A hand on my shoulder that lingered too long. Comments about how pretty I looked, how mature I was becoming. Offers to teach me things, how to drive the boat, how to fish, how to fix the dock. My parents were always conveniently busy when these offers were made. My mother was helping grandmother with her medications. My father was working on his laptop, always behind on some project. They trusted David. He was family. The first time it really happened, I was alone in the boathouse. I'd gone down to get life jackets for an afternoon swim. He followed me down, closed the door behind him, and the lock clicked with a sound like a gunshot. I've been watching you, he said, and his voice was different now. Lower. Hungrier. You've been watching me too, haven't you? No, I said, backing away. I haven't. Don't lie to me, Sarah. I can tell. The way you look at me. The way you smile. You want this. I didn't want it. I had never wanted it. But he was bigger than me, stronger than me, and the boathouse was far from the main house. Far enough that no one would hear me scream. Afterward, he straightened his clothes, ran a hand through his hair, and looked at me with something that might have been affection or might have been contempt. It was hard to tell the difference. "This is between us," he said. "Our special secret. If you tell anyone, they won't believe you. They'll think you're trying to get attention. That you're making things up because you're jealous of your cousins, or you want to cause drama." He touched my face, and I flinched. "Besides," he continued, "think about what it would do to your grandmother. It would kill her, Sarah. At her age, with her heart condition. Is that what you want? To be responsible for killing your grandmother?" I was 15 years old. I didn't know what I wanted except for him to leave me alone. But he didn't leave me alone. For the next 3 weeks, he found opportunities. The boathouse. The woods behind the property. The storage room in the basement. Each time, he told me it was special. Each time, he reminded me that telling would destroy everything. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. My mother noticed and took me to the doctor, who prescribed vitamins and suggested I was going through normal teenage hormones. My father told me to stop being so moody. My grandmother said I looked pale and needed more sunshine. No one asked the right questions. By the time we returned home in August, I had become a ghost of myself. I drifted through the halls of my high school like a shadow, unable to connect with my friends, unable to focus on anything except the weight of the secret I was carrying. It was my English teacher, Mrs. Reynolds, who finally noticed something was truly wrong. She kept me after class one day and asked if I was okay. I meant to say yes. I meant to smile and lie and protect everyone like I'd been taught to do. Instead, I burst into tears and told her everything. Hashtag part 3, the pressure. Mrs. Reynolds called my parents. My parents called the police. The police came to our house and asked me questions in our living room while my mother clutched a throw pillow and my father paced like a caged animal. The detective was kind. Her name was Officer Martinez, and she had soft eyes and a gentle voice. She told me I was brave. She told me that what happened wasn't my fault. She told me that they would investigate, that they would talk to my uncle, that justice would be served. I believed her. My uncle was arrested on a Friday afternoon. By Friday evening, my phone was ringing nonstop. Family members I barely knew were calling, texting, showing up at our house. The message was always the same, delivered in different words, but with the same underlying threat. "How could you do this to the family?" My grandmother called, her voice weak and trembling. "Sarah, sweetheart, there must be some mistake. David would never. He's a good man. He's my son. Surely you're confused, or you misunderstood, or..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. The implication was clear. I was lying, or confused, or malicious. Anything except telling the truth about what her son had done. My Aunt Carolyn, David's sister, was less subtle. She showed up at our house in tears, screaming at my mother on the front porch. "Do you know what this is doing to Mom? Do you care at all? David made a mistake, fine, but pressing charges? Taking it this far? You're destroying this family. All of you. A mistake." As if what he'd done to me for 3 weeks was equivalent to forgetting someone's birthday or arriving late to dinner. My cousins stopped talking to me. Friends from church suddenly had other plans. Even some of my school friends, the ones whose parents were connected to my extended family, began to distance themselves. The whispers followed me everywhere. "That's the girl who accused her uncle. I heard she's just looking for attention. Her family is a mess because of her." The preliminary hearing was scheduled for October. As the date approached, the pressure intensified. My mother started having panic attacks. My father became withdrawn, working longer hours, avoiding family gatherings. My grandmother was hospitalized with heart palpitations, and everyone made sure I knew it was because of the stress I was causing. She might not make it. My Aunt Carolyn told me at the hospital, her eyes red from crying. "If she dies, that's on you. Her death will be, because you couldn't just let this go." I was 15 years old, and I was being asked to carry the weight of everyone's pain except my own. My mother came to my room 2 weeks before the hearing. She sat on the edge of my bed and took my hand in hers, the same way she used to when I was little and had nightmares. "Baby," she said, and her voice was so tired. "I believe you. I want you to know that. I believe that something happened. Something. Not rape. Not assault. Just something. But," she continued, and I knew what was coming before she said it, "I need you to think about what this trial will do. To you. To all of us. You'll have to testify. You'll have to talk about intimate things in front of strangers. In front of the family. Your name will be in the papers. People will always remember you as the girl who..." She stopped, but I could fill in the rest. The girl who accused her uncle. The girl who destroyed her family. The girl who couldn't keep her mouth shut. "David's lawyer says he'll make sure everyone knows about that boy you kissed at summer camp when you were 13, she continued, and I could see how much it hurt her to say it. "They'll say you're promiscuous. That you wanted it. That you seduced him." I had kissed one boy, once, at a church camp 3 years ago. It had been innocent and awkward and nothing like what David had done to me. But I understood what she was saying. They would use anything, twist anything, destroy me in any way they could to protect him. "If you drop the charges," my mother said softly, "we can move past this as a family. David has agreed to stay away from you. He won't be at family gatherings when you're there. We'll make sure you're never alone with him again. You'll be safe, I promise. Safe. As if safety was just a matter of avoiding the same room as your rapist. But Grandma, she continued, her voice breaking, Grandma can't take this stress. The doctor says another episode could kill her. And she's talking about changing her will, about cutting off your father's inheritance, about... She stopped and wiped her eyes. We could lose everything, Sarah. The lake house. The money for your college. Your father's relationship with his mother. Everything. I looked at my mother's face and saw the exhaustion there. The fear. The desperate hope that I would make this all go away. I thought about sitting in a courtroom. About answering questions about my body, my choices, my mistakes. About watching my grandmother collapse. About my cousins hating me forever. About walking through school known as the girl who destroyed her family. I thought about David, who would hire the best lawyers money could buy. Who would smile and cry and tell the jury about his difficult divorce, his depression, his moment of weakness. Who would paint me as a temptress, a liar, a troubled teenage girl looking for attention. I thought about losing. Okay, I whispered. I'll drop them. My mother's relief was palpable. She hugged me tight, thanking me, telling me I was doing the right thing, that I was so mature, so brave, so selfless. I didn't feel brave. I felt like I was suffocating. The charges were dropped 3 days later. David was released, and the family celebrated quietly. My grandmother recovered. Life went back to normal. Except nothing was normal ever again. Hashtag part 4, after. The years after I dropped the charges passed in a strange, dissociated blur. I finished high school with good grades, but no joy. I went to college as far away from home as I could manage, a small liberal arts school in Oregon where no one knew my family or my story. I told myself I was fine. I dated casually, but never seriously, always finding a reason to end things before they got too deep. I threw myself into my studies, into student organizations, into anything that would keep me busy enough that I didn't have to think. I avoided family gatherings when I could. When I couldn't, I perfected the art of the polite smile, the surface-level conversation, the quick exit. My uncle kept his distance as promised, but I could feel his presence like a bruise that never quite healed. And I could see the gratitude in everyone's eyes. Thank you for not ruining everything. Thank you for keeping the peace. Thank you for your silence. No one ever asked how I was doing. Not really. They asked about my classes, my future plans, whether I was dating anyone. But no one asked about the nightmares that woke me up at 3 a.m. No one asked why I flinched when men touched my shoulder. No one asked why I couldn't eat at family dinners or why I always found an excuse to leave early. The silence became its own kind of prison. I graduated with honors and moved to Chicago, building a life that looked successful from the outside. I had a good job at a marketing firm, a nice apartment, friends who knew only the carefully curated version of myself that I chose to show them. I went to therapy for a while, but I could never quite bring myself to talk about what had really happened. It was easier to focus on my anxiety, my trouble with intimacy, my perfectionism, symptoms without naming the disease. Years passed. 5, 10, 15. I convinced myself that I had moved on, that the past was the past, that what had happened to me was just one of those terrible things that happens to people, and you either survive it or you don't. I survived it. That was supposed to be enough. But then there were moments. Watching the news coverage of the Me Too movement, seeing women come forward with their stories, when I would feel something crack open inside me. Regret. Shame. A terrible, consuming guilt that I couldn't quite name or understand. I had been a victim. I knew that intellectually. But I had also made a choice to drop those charges. I had chosen to protect my family instead of protecting myself. And in doing so, I had chosen to leave him free. Free to be around other children, other girls, other potential victims. I told myself he wouldn't do it again. That my mother's promise was true, that he had learned his lesson, that he was being watched, that what happened to me was an isolated incident born of his divorce and depression and circumstances that would never align again. I told myself these things because the alternative was unbearable. Hashtag part 5, the call. When Emma called me at 2:47 a.m., 20 years after I had dropped those charges, every lie I'd told myself shattered like glass. Tell me what happened to you, she had asked, and so I did. I told her about the boathouse and the storage room and the woods behind my grandmother's property. I told her about his words, his excuses, his threats. I told her about the police report and the pressure from the family and the impossible choice I'd been given at 15 years old. I told her about the 20 years I'd spent trying to convince myself I'd made the right decision. It wasn't your fault, Emma said when I finished, and her voice was stronger now. You were 15. You were a kid. They should have protected you, not made you choose between your safety and your family. I had heard these words before in therapy, in self-help books, in conversations with friends. But hearing them from Emma, from the living proof that my silence had accomplished nothing except to give him more time, more opportunity, more victims, made them land differently. How long? I asked, afraid of the answer. How long has he been doing this to you? Since I was 12, she said quietly. It started after my mom died. Dad said I reminded him of her, that I was special, that he was teaching me about love. 3 years. He had been hurting her for 3 years, and I could have stopped it. If I had been braver, stronger, less concerned with protecting people who had never protected me. Stop, Emma said, reading my silence. I can hear you blaming yourself. Don't. He did this. Not you. He's the monster here. I should have. You were a child, she interrupted firmly. You did what you thought you had to do to survive. But I'm not a child anymore. I'm 23, and I'm done surviving. I want justice. I want him to pay for what he did to both of us. The family will. I don't care about the family, Emma said, and there was steel in her voice. The family didn't care about me when I needed them. Why should I care about their comfort now? It was the truth I had never been brave enough to speak. What do you need from me? I asked. I need you to tell your story, Emma said. I need you to go on record. I need you to help me prove this wasn't an isolated incident. That he's a predator with a pattern. That I'm not lying or confused or making it up. My heart was racing. Emma, I dropped the charges. I don't know if my testimony would even be admissible after all this time. And the family will hate us, Emma finished. I know. But Sarah, there's something else you should know. I waited, not sure I wanted to hear what came next. There was another girl, Emma said. Between you and me. Her name was Lily. She was my babysitter when I was little. I found her through Facebook. I reached out to her after I found her police report, thinking maybe she'd seen something, noticed something. My blood went cold. She didn't just see something, Emma continued. He did it to her too, when she was 16. She never reported it because her family, they were close with ours. She didn't think anyone would believe her. She's 30 now, and she's still in therapy. 3 of us. That we knew of. How many others might there be? I'm gathering evidence, Emma said. Text messages, emails, anything that proves his pattern of behavior. Lily's willing to give a statement. But I need you, Sarah. I need the first victim. I need the police report that shows this has been going on for 20 years. I need you to be brave enough now to do what you couldn't do then. I looked around my apartment. My carefully constructed life, my professional reputation, my hard-won stability. I thought about how coming forward would change everything. How the family would react. How my parents would feel. How my career might be affected. How every single person who had ever known me would suddenly see me differently. I thought about all the reasons to say no. And then I thought about Emma, sitting in her car outside a police station at 3 a.m, terrified and alone, asking me to help her do the thing I hadn't been strong enough to do myself. I thought about Lily, carrying her trauma in silence for 14 years. I thought about all the other girls there might be, the ones we didn't know about yet. Okay, I said. I'll do it. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. Emma's sob of relief was audible even over the phone. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you so much. But Emma, I said, needing her to understand, it's going to be hard. They're going to come after us. They're going to say terrible things. The family will close ranks around him like they did before. Your grandmother. My grandmother chose him over you, Emma said flatly. She chose protecting a rapist over protecting her granddaughter. I don't owe her anything. The clarity in her voice was something I had never managed to achieve. Maybe it was generational. Emma had grown up in the age of Me Too, of believing women, of understanding that family loyalty didn't trump basic human decency. Or maybe she was just braver than I had ever been. When are you going in? I asked. Now, Emma said. I'm going in right now, while I still have the courage. Can you stay on the phone with me? Yes, I said without hesitation. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. I heard her take a deep breath, heard the car door open, heard her footsteps on pavement. I'm walking up to the door, she narrated. There's an officer at the front desk. He's looking at me. I think he can tell I've been crying. You can do this, I said. You are so much stronger than you know. I'm telling him I need to report a sexual assault, Emma continued, her voice shaking. He's getting someone. A detective. A woman. She looks nice. Tell her everything, I said. Don't leave anything out. Don't try to protect anyone. Just tell the truth. Okay. A pause. Sarah? Yes. Thank you for answering the phone. Thank you for telling me your story. Thank you for making me feel less alone. My eyes filled with tears. You were never alone, Emma. I'm sorry it took me 20 years to tell you that. I heard her talking to the detective now, heard the professional kindness in the officer's voice as she led Emma somewhere more private. I have to go, Emma whispered. But I'll call you later, okay? I'll be here. I promised. Whenever you need me, I'll be here. The line went dead, and I sat in my apartment in the dark, still holding the phone, feeling something shift inside me that I couldn't quite name. For 20 years, I had carried the weight of my silence like a stone around my neck. I had told myself that dropping those charges was the right thing to do, the mature thing, the thing that kept the family together. But the family had never been whole. It had been built on secrets and lies and the protection of a predator at the expense of his victims. Emma was breaking that cycle. And by asking for my help, she was giving me a chance to break it too. Hashtag part 6, the storm. Dawn was breaking when I finally called my mother. I hadn't planned what to say. I just knew that she needed to hear it from me before the police called her. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice groggy. Sarah? What's wrong? It's 6 a.m. Emma reported Uncle David. I said without preamble. She went to the police last night for sexual assault. He's been doing to her what he did to me. The silence on the other end was absolute. Mom, I prompted. She started, then stopped. That's not possible. David he's been in therapy. He's been working on himself. After what happened with you, we made sure. You made sure of nothing, I interrupted, and there was an edge to my voice I'd never used with her before. You made me drop the charges and pretended it never happened. And because of that, he hurt Emma for 3 years. And there's another girl, Lily. She was 16 when he assaulted her. Between me and Emma. Oh my God, my mother whispered. I'm going to testify, I continued. The police are going to want to talk to me. They're going to reopen my case as part of the evidence. And I'm going to tell them everything. Everything he did to me. Everything you asked me to keep quiet about. Sarah, please. No, I said firmly. I'm done protecting him. I'm done protecting a family that chose a rapist over his victims. I'm done carrying this guilt. You don't understand what this will do, my mother said, and now she was crying. Your father and we're still in the family trust. Your grandmother's will. I don't care about the money, Mom. I don't care about the lake house. I don't care about any of it. Your father will be devastated. And I wasn't devastated at 15? I shot back. When you made me choose between my safety and your comfort. When you told me that keeping the family together was more important than getting justice for what he did to me. We thought we were protecting you, she said weakly. From the trial. From the publicity. From having to relive it in front of strangers. You were protecting yourselves, I said, and the words came out harder than I intended, but not harder than I felt. You were protecting your relationship with Grandma and Dad's inheritance, and your standing in the community. I was 15 years old, and you taught me that my trauma mattered less than everyone else's comfort. My mother was crying harder now. I'm sorry. God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. If I could go back. You can't go back, I said. None of us can. But you can do the right thing now. You can support Emma. You can believe her. You can stand up to the family when they try to make her drop the charges like they made me drop mine. They'll never forgive us. Then they were never family worth having. There was a long pause. I could hear my father's voice in the background, asking what was wrong. I heard my mother telling him, heard his sharp intake of breath, heard the beginning of an argument I didn't want to be part of. I have to go, I said. The police are going to call you. Tell them the truth. All of it. Don't try to minimize it or explain it away. Just tell them what happened. Sarah, wait. But I had already hung up. The next 48 hours were a blur. Detective Martinez, the same officer who had handled my case 20 years ago, called me that afternoon. She was older now, close to retirement, but her voice was just as kind as I remembered. I never forgot your case, she told me. When you dropped the charges, I knew something wasn't right. But I couldn't force you to prosecute. I've thought about you over the years, wondered how you were doing. I told her I'd been surviving. She said that was sometimes the best we could hope for. She asked if I would come in to give a formal statement. I said yes. She asked if I was prepared for what that meant, the family's reaction, the media attention, the possibility that even with 3 victims, they might not be able to convict him after all this time. I'm prepared, I said, and I realized it was true. The family explosion happened faster than I expected. By that evening, my phone was lighting up with messages. My Aunt Carolyn, my cousins, extended family members I hadn't spoken to in years. All of them saying the same things they'd said 20 years ago, just with more rage and less pretense of concern. How dare you drag this up again? You're going to destroy him. After everything he's done for this family. You're just bitter and jealous and looking for attention. This is a money grab. You should be ashamed. I blocked the numbers one by one, feeling lighter with each deletion. My grandmother called last. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Sarah Elizabeth, she said, using my full name like she had when I was a child and had done something wrong. I want you to stop this nonsense immediately. David is my son. He's made mistakes, yes, but he's a good man who's been through a lot. This vendetta of yours needs to end. Grandma, I said, he raped me. And Emma. And Lily. He's a predator. He's been a predator for at least 20 years. Maybe longer. Don't use that language, she snapped. What happened between you was complicated. You were going through a phase. You were confused about your feelings. David was going through a difficult time with the divorce, and you were? I was 15, I interrupted. I was a child. And he was a 38-year-old man who raped me repeatedly and then threatened me to stay quiet. There's nothing complicated about that. If you go through with this, my grandmother said, her voice cold now, you are no longer my granddaughter. You will be cut from the will. You will not be welcome at family gatherings. Your father will be disowned. I mean it, Sarah. I will burn this family to the ground before I let you destroy my son. The threat should have hurt. A year ago, even a month ago, it would have devastated me. But now, after hearing Emma's story, after talking to Lily, after spending 20 years watching my family choose a rapist over his victims again and again, I felt nothing but a grim kind of relief. Then burn it, I said, because I'm done pretending this family is worth saving. I hung up before she could respond. Hashtag part 7, solidarity. Emma and I met in person for the first time 3 days after her initial report. She drove up from Indiana, and we agreed to meet at a coffee shop in downtown Chicago, neutral territory, where neither of us had history. I recognized her immediately when she walked in. She looked like David's late wife. The same dark hair, the same delicate features. It made sense why he'd targeted her. In his twisted mind, she was probably a replacement for the wife who'd left him. We hugged without speaking, two strangers who knew each other's worst secrets. "You look different than I imagined," Emma said as we sat down with our coffees. "Huh, how did you imagine me?" She shrugged. "Broken, I guess. Bitter. Angry. But you seem, I don't know, strong." I laughed, but it came out sad. I'm good at looking strong. I've had 20 years to practice. But inside, I shook my head. Inside, I'm still 15 years old and terrified. "Me too," Emma admitted. "I keep thinking about what's coming. The trial, the testimony, having to tell strangers the details of what he did, having the defense attorney try to make me look like I'm lying. They'll come after both of us hard," I warned her. "They'll dig into our entire lives looking for anything they can use. Old boyfriends, drinking, anything that makes us look less than perfect." Emma nodded. "I know. My lawyer warned me. But she also said having 3 victims makes the case much stronger. That it establishes a pattern. That it makes it harder for him to claim it was just a misunderstanding or a one-time mistake." "Have you talked to Lily?" "She's flying in next week," Emma said. "She wants to meet both of us. I think she needs to know she's not alone." We sat in silence for a moment, sipping our coffee, both of us processing the surreal reality that we were here, doing this, breaking decades of silence. "Can I ask you something?" Emma said finally. "Anything." "Do you regret dropping the charges? Back then, I mean. Do you wish you'd gone through with it?" I'd thought about this question 1,000 times over the past few days. I turned it over and over, examining it from every angle, trying to find an answer that felt true. "Yes," I said finally. "And no. I regret that he hurt you. I regret that my silence gave him the opportunity to hurt other people. I'll carry that guilt for the rest of my life." Emma started to protest, but I held up my hand. "But," I continued, "I also know that I was 15 years old and drowning. The family had made it clear what they expected of me. The cost of fighting seemed too high. And maybe if I'd gone forward with the trial, I wouldn't have survived it. Maybe the pressure would have broken me completely. I don't know." "So you did what you had to do to survive," Emma said softly. "Yes. And I'm not going to apologize for that anymore. I'm not going to carry the blame for his actions just because I wasn't able to stop him when I was a child." Emma reached across the table and took my hand. "Thank you for helping me now. Thank you for being willing to go through it all again when you don't have to." "I do have to," I said. "Because you're right. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about every other girl he might hurt if we don't stop him. It's about breaking the cycle. It's about teaching the next generation that silence isn't protection." We talked for 3 hours, sharing our stories, comparing details, building the case in our minds. It was